Good evening, everyone. Welcome. My name's Sarah Sands. I'm editor of the Evening Standard, and this is the Evening Standard Progress Conversation. So we have two speakers, both globally well-known names, both audacious enough to believe that things are getting better, even if it's not always apparent if you follow the news. So I'm going to be having a quick conversation about progress with these speakers, and then we're going to go to the audience so you can challenge them yourselves, and we've got about half an hour. So please welcome on stage Bill Gates, co-chair of the Bill and Melinda Foundation, and will.i.am, global music artist, entrepreneur, and founder and chairman of I.am Plus. Children hurting, I hear them crying. Can you help this much? Hi, welcome. Welcome both. So I'm going to start with Bill. You're over here to talk about the importance of research and development in combating poverty and disease. What's been the great breakthrough for you?
Well, our foundation puts a lot of money into research. We need a lot of new vaccines and drugs to solve these diseases. And so every year we get the scientists together, we talk about the problems, we drive a lot of collaboration. And it's amazing. Biology today, because of genetics, because of new tools that can look in the data in a rich way, we're making more progress than ever. And so even things that have been very hard to do, like an HIV vaccine, it's pretty clear to me that within the next decade, all these great tools will get invented and allow us to achieve ambitious goals in terms of saving lives.
I think you said in the Evening Standard today that if you want to be ill, wait for about 10 years. Is that
At
right?
least, yeah, maybe 20 to be safe.
Then we'll be able to solve it. Will, why is this such an exciting time to study maths and science? You're an evangelist for those subjects. What was your epiphany?
So coming from the neighborhood I come from, where it's a poverty-stricken area, it's an underdeveloped community, we take those words really lightly and not ask who are the developers in the first place that are responsible for underdeveloped communities. So being one of those kids and seeing how amazing the world of technology is, I want to inspire these kids to dream down that path. Like, it's okay to dream about being a musician, but I urge you and encourage you guys to, try to be computer scientists, engineers, aim to learn about robotics. So we started doing that about 7 years ago in the ghetto that I'm from, teaching kids robotics, computer science, and we've seen amazing change in their lives in the construct of our community, where kids were performing with 1.2 grade point averages, even lower. And since we started, our kids now have 3.5s and 4.0s. We had our first graduating class this year. 100% of our kids graduated. 70% of them are going to four-year colleges studying electrical engineering, computer science, and robotics. So I've seen it firsthand of how a STEM skill set could transform not only the kids' lives, but the conditions of the community.
And this is the American dream, isn't it? You were saying earlier that this is the time of maximum democratization. You're comparing it to 1916, that you can start a company, you can have a conversation, that you can make discoveries. Now is the time. Do you believe that?
Yeah, now is the time. Not only when you tell the kid the truth, no one's coming to save you. It's set up for you not only to fail, but to fill in a prison that's 40 miles down the road from this ghetto. That's the way the system is. I'm not going to invest in your education. That's what the government is telling them. And when you fail in school, here are some illegal activities for you to participate in to survive. And when you do that, you're going to fill this prison, and I'm going to invest more money in the prison guards than the teachers. Right? Now, that's inhumane, actually, but that's actual fact. So if you tell the kid the truth, but then say, here are some mentors, and here's a skill set, and you could save yourself. And these companies have jobs that are not filled, and you could fill them. More importantly, with the skill set, you could create jobs. That's right now. You have both things happening at the same time. We choose the other one, to encourage them, tell them the truth, and provide them with tomorrow's skill sets today.
So talking about the future, just give me your vision of the world in 50 years' time. What could be happening?
Well, 50 years is a long time, particularly if you share the view that scientific innovation is actually accelerating. And it's not just true in medicine, although that's one realm where it's very exciting. Certainly in terms of information technology, what software is able to do in vision and speech and understanding. So 50 years from now, the ability to produce the goods and services, we won't need as much human labor to do that. So things like small class size, taking care of kids with special needs, taking care of old people, hopefully doing a decent job in the inner city. We should be able to take that extra productivity and apply it against our values. Eventually, and I'd say in 50 years this is likely, we may choose that the amount of time we work could be reduced, because we'll be dealing with so much supply, very different from even where we are today.
So be more productive, but not having to work so hard.
Well, the productivity will be akin to what's happened in the agricultural sector. So in the U.S., 1900, 60% of the workforce was on the farm. And we were not a big food exporter. We barely made enough food to feed the country. Today, less than 2% of the labor force is on the farms. And yet the U.S. is a big food exporter. If you had said to people, hey, this is going to happen, they would have said, hey, farming is what life is all about, and how, there isn't anything else to do. If you'd said, no, you're going to have, psychotherapy and massage parlors and Disneyland and, all these amazing things that people have, they would have kind of wondered about that. But in fact, we are better off, not yet to the point where everybody's getting the services that we'd like them to have. But so all the sectors of the economy, particularly the manufacturing pieces, will have productivity increases like farming's had over that time period.
So, well, we shouldn't be threatened by artificial intelligence. We just need a cultural change, do we, to adapt to it. What does the world look like to you in 50 years' time?
Well, let's take a snapshot of what the world looked like now. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to believe that racism still exists. I don't think it does. I try to wish it away. But the more wishing that I do, I realize that racism is systematic. It's in our system, in our justice system. And what I fear is that same type of systematic racism will find its way in artificial intelligence unless we start training these kids to create algorithms and understand how to work and build these tools in the future now. So what I mean by that, so right now it's kind of wrong to do racial profiling, but you could create an artificial intelligence to say and look at income around a zip code, and that's kind of racial profiling. So if a system that's not human is that intelligent to look at a particular area and the income they make, well, it's one thing to have a police officer shoot a black guy in Mississippi, and we know that it's wrong, but he's protected by the system. It's one thing to then have a system, an AI, that has more rights than a person. Now, if you don't start educating these kids in inner cities now, then 50 years looks worse than right now. Because that's a snapshot of what's going on right now in a lot of inner cities in every country, where we have people that are not educated. I don't know why that's the case. We know that AI is a big subject right now. We know how it's going to change the world that we live in, just like the internet did back in the late 80s, 90s. And it changed the world. We know that capacitive touch changed the world. We wouldn't have an Uber if it wasn't. It changed transportation. Guess what it's not changing? Watts, Fifth Ward, Mississippi, Baton Rouge. It's not changing those areas. Why? Because we're not educating them early enough. So 50 years from now could look crazy if we don't pay attention to the kids now.
Thank you. And we're now going to go to the audience for some questions. And the first one is by Elise Andrew.
One of the biggest problems in the age of globalization and the internet is misinformation, particularly when it comes to anti-vaxxer movements and climate change denial. So what do you think is the best way to steer scientific information in the future?
Bill?
Yeah, it is almost ironic that this amazing invention of the internet where information is so available, and if you want to learn about science, see courses online, it's easier today than ever. It's also the source, as you say, of incredible misinformation, and we're also seeing people who agree with each other, even in some of these very non-scientific viewpoints or non-diverse attitudes kind of clustering together. And so how we take this innovation and make sure that there's still a common dialogue, a common understanding, and that certain parts of science, like what's really going on with climate change, or what is the data about vaccines and how they're helpful and what risk you create, even if one family's not participating in that. It's a bit of an unsolved problem. And the next generation that's thinking about Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, they really need to understand how does that become more inclusive as opposed to just people separating themselves off. I believe that they'll use the flexibility in the right way, but you're more in touch with that young group and seeing how it's evolving, how they're using it.
You're not for regulation, though. That wouldn't be a way, would you?
Well, it's never really worked to regulate speech. Yes, there's some speech that's so extreme in terms of hate speech or libel or stolen material or things like that. You want to have some restrictions. But the way people are associating and sort of joining their own community in a virtual way and sort of in an echo chamber in terms of points of view that disagree with them, I do have to say that I think that has to be solved. Just like inner city education, it's a very good point that the very positive picture I painted, unless we can get that educational opportunity, it won't be there. So definitely on the list of things, this thing where people are separating themselves and in some cases creating their own facts about things like vaccination, that's a real concern. But I do think we'll innovate our way to create that commons and have more learning rather than isolation.
Do you worry, Will, about how true information can be that's reaching people around the world?
Well, I'll answer that by taking the last two questions and framing the last two questions in answering this question. So 50 years AI, I'll go a little sooner and say 15, 20 years AI and how to access information with filters. So right now, if you look at the world, we couldn't imagine the way the world is today in 1997, that with a device with capacitive touch, I could hit and a taxi would show up. You couldn't believe that. You couldn't believe that people will live in a day where we don't want to keep albums. We're just going to stream them. You couldn't believe that that we live in a day where, everything's disposable. So now we live in this time, and we have to imagine what AI means 15, 20 years from now. Right now, for us to get information, I have to log on in that Google bar and search everything and scroll through all those things myself. And it takes so much time. So what does AI mean to us? That means in one day, and soon, we will have our own personal AI that does all that stuff for us. Where currency will change by being able to get the best information for me. Right now, the internet's not mine. We all take it for granted. Just bits and pieces of me are on the internet. All of us. And there's billion-dollar companies in the name of free because we give all our data away. Meanwhile, we're trying to protect our identity. We give everything about us, what we like, who we know, where we go. We just throw it out. But the internet's not working for me yet. I have to work the internet to get information. But AI in our lives is going to do that. Then there's going to be new type of filters, like there's apps for smartphones. So you have to imagine, what does AI mean in the future? That means there's going to be something that I talk to that will be configured with things that I subscribe to get information just for me. So I don't have to search the internet. I am a magnet. And that AI is going to attract the things that are associated with my data and all my other data doppelgangers, to where in the future we'll have this AI and it's going to surf and scour through my identity. When I combine my identity and my data, and there's something protecting it. So that's where we're going. We're feeding this system, this brain, so the AI can work for us and communities. So I think in the future we'll have like a different type of rich and poor. And that's he and she who has filters to get the best information for them, whether it's medical, for my genome, or it's information about my geo, and all that stuff. And then there's folks that are gonna have whack AI. That's just, unfortunately, it's all free, and they're getting the BS.
So it is like hell, gosh.
And it's going to be like kids in the inner city where I come from. And why should that happen? Why should we repeat the same thing? If this is 1916, why do we have to go through the same exercises again?
So that universal resource has to work for everyone, even though it's going to be personalised and in the future. A second question. That's from Silas Adekunle. Over here. So have you got a microphone?
Thank you, guys.
Silas.
Thank you. This is a question about STEM, actually. So there are some efforts being made now to get more young people into STEM. But what are some specific things we could be doing better to try and get them into it?
Well, Will, that was something you were talking about. Everyone knows, presumably, STEM.
Science, technology, engineering,
and maths, right?
and mathematics.
Yeah.
So every year, and we all watch these award shows, and we celebrate the success from those folks in those fields. But that industry makes sure everybody is paying attention. The same doesn't happen for tech and STEM. Every year, somebody graduates MIT and falls invisible when they go to that company. We are not doing any efforts to make sure every single kid dreams to be like Bill Gates. Folks want to be like will.i.am in the inner cities, not Bill Gates, not will.i.am. Folks want to be
There's the
like
tragedy.
Stevie Wonder, not Steve Jobs. Folks want to be like Michael Jordan. They're 5'1", and they don't want to be like Michael Dell. So we have to change as a whole. Popular culture, tech culture, politics. We have to inspire these kids. That's what I do. Right? I don't have to do the work I do. I could tell these kids, no, be music. Yes, I'm on The Voice. Yes, but and I tell the kids, do music. But I should, at the same time, if I really truly believe, provide opportunities and a path for them to go down this path in STEM, but also include the world of arts in it. We hold that Sennheiser mic. Sennheiser is Mr. Sennheiser. We forget to thank the tech alongside the arts for the fact that we call it STEM and not STEAM, or teams of STEAM, for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, and technology, engineering, athletics, math, right? And the other S for stuff.
Okay, Caroline DeMorla. DeMorla's somewhere? Yeah. And this is for Bill, I think this one.
Wonderful, thank you. So in your opinion, what is the next big invention that will change the way we live?
Well, I think it's very important that we have inventions in a lot of areas. We need in energy ways of generating electricity and doing transport that are CO2 free. That's super important. We need cures for all the diseases of the poor. Super important. The thing that will change the world most rapidly, though, is exactly what Will's been talking about, which is artificial intelligence. The idea that the computer can see, it can listen, eventually it'll read. Reading is, nobody actually has a prediction of how quickly that'll come along. But just in the last few weeks, for the first time, the computer can listen to human speech and understand what was said better than humans can. So it's just a milestone that shows us that the digital tools are moving very quickly. Now, in a lot of ways, this is very good news. Our foundation takes cell phones and uses them so people can save money. They can send it to their relatives. We can track if the aid money that goes into countries is spent well by collecting evidence about the transactions and how the money is spent. We can survey people who go to health clinics to make sure they were treated well, they got good service, and we can understand women and their attitudes towards contraception. Are they getting what they need? And so the cell phone is a very empowering thing. Even the idea of robotics mostly is a good thing. And so at the same time that we're thinking about, okay, how do we adjust to this, it is valuable to think, okay, we're finally going to have a society where we can apply a lot of that resource to improved equity that we're still very far short of. So robotics will be there, but those other ones will come in, and it's really that combination that'll make the world pretty fantastic compared to where we are today.
You're a believer in robots, aren't you? You think that...
What we have our kids working on, our main focus, what we do with I Am Angel Foundation is to get kids that have been left behind and fast forward them with tomorrow's skill sets today. And AI is exciting. I think that is the next big thing. And it would see its way across all types of industries. But now is the time that we should all think seriously about it and how our kids are a part of that conversation, because they'll be running those companies tomorrow.
Just pick up on one thing that you talked about, being a global citizen. Both of you, I guess, would describe yourselves as global citizens. It's a phrase that was used recently, actually, by the Prime Minister. She said that if you're a citizen, a global citizen, it means that you're a citizen of nowhere. But do you think there is a place for being a global citizen?
My understanding of global citizen, I'm a citizen of the United States of America, but I also travel around the world, and I love people from other countries as much as I do American citizens. I love this country like if it was my home, the UK. I love it. I love it here. I love the quality of culture here and the appreciation of difference here, right? You're surrounded by so many different nations. I love your tolerance. I love your appreciation for the arts. I love Japan. I love how they protect the arts and how they preserve it. I love Hong Kong and China. I love Indonesia. I love Philippines. I love the Philippines. I love my best friend, Apple the App, who comes from, a very poor neighborhood, was adopted by a guy by the name of Joe Ben Hudgens, and actually sponsored ever since he was 5, and brought to America to learn engineering, and then we started the Black Eyed Peas, and that went south. But I love the Philippines. I love the Philippines. I love Brazil. So from that perspective, I'm a global citizen because I love these countries. I love the people, and I have friends there. I love Russia. I love the people that I met when we toured there. And there's a lot of people that I've met through touring music that feel the same way about me. I have friends abroad. As much as I have friends and I appreciate, my upbringings, in East Los Angeles, born in an all-Mexican neighborhood, went to an all-white school, attended an all-black church. I don't see color. I truly don't. But only color I see is this wonderful green and blue planet. So from that perspective, I'm a global citizen.
Nice speech. And Bill, you find us in a state of some anxiety at the moment. We're all looking for this post-Brexit identity. How important do you think political leadership is now?
Well, I think of myself as a global citizen because when Melinda and I sat down to think about what the top priority for our foundation would be, it wasn't with sort of a nationalistic mindset. And it's part of the beauty of how far the world has come along that, if you're taken care of, your family's taken care of, if your clan, if your state, your country's doing okay, you can actually think about who's in the toughest shape on a global basis. You can be a human, part of the human race, in addition to still caring more about your family and even your country in some ways. But, you know, we certainly, with the luck we had and the resources, and later with Warren Buffett's resources, we said, let's help those most in need. And so that's where we went and learned about disease and malaria and how little money was being spent on these diseases, and decided to get engaged in those things. You know, in terms of the UK, there is a very positive story here, that this country's always been very diverse. This country's very unique in that even in a time when the budget was very tight, it made a priority of getting up to a very generous level of foreign aid. 0.7% of GDP is this incredible level, and the governments spent that very wisely. And both parties, I mean, Blair, Brown, Cameron, May, all of them are committed to this very generous approach to foreign aid. And so we partner with the government here to make sure all that money's spent well. We partner to make sure we're tapping into British science. And you know, there's so many different institutions, whether it's livestock, agriculture. Some of them are these old institutions: Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine, London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. It's even a kind of a strange name. But when it comes to malaria and mosquitoes and stuff, you know, those people are the best in the world. So we have over $1 billion of science research money active here in the US, just because this is the best place to do the work. So yes, it's a little, you know, reading into, okay, what does that vote mean? What does it mean over time about trade and immigration and relationships? I think it's fine to be concerned about that. But overall, I'd say the UK is a very international country, and it benefits. It's a win-win for it to be an international country. And you know, this development aid generosity, I think, is the best evidence of that.
Well, thank you so much. These two global citizens are both flying off, but we've been so privileged to have you here, and thank you for your optimism. So I think we can all go home believing in progress as when we arrived. And thank you so much, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.